What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. I was originally planning to do an episode about parkour competition as a whole in 2020, and right around the time that I went to research and get topics for that episode, I started seeing some clips getting thrown around Facebook and Instagram about the recent USA Parkour Cup that happened in Tampa at the end of January. So I was digging more into it, and it felt like there was a lot of different opinions and maybe even misunderstanding around the event. So I reached out to a lot of athletes to get their point of view on it. And originally I was going to get some audio clips of athletes' opinions and then do a sort of reaction episode where I take what they said and add my own thoughts to it. One of the athletes I reached out to was Jarrod Luty, who ended up going above and beyond and sent me back an entire podcast episode about their point of view on the USA Parkour Cup. It is Jarrod, Joey Adrian, and AJ Aljaafreh. And so the three of them are going to kind of walk you guys through the whole event and their point of view on how it was run. But before I get started with that, this is actually a two-part episode. The second part, I sit down with Robbie Corbett, who is the kind of showrunner for all of the WFPF competitions. And so I wanted to get their point of view on the competition and get both sides of the conversation just so that it is a bit more of a two-sided conversation and not just one point of view. So both of those episodes are going out at the exact same time in the spirit of a fair dialogue. So if you're going to listen to this, please make sure you end up going and listening to the other episode as well, just so you can get the whole story and form a more informed opinion. So with all that said, I will go ahead and shut up so we can just get to it, and I hope you enjoy. Peace.
Yo, what's up, everybody? I am Joey Adrian. I'm here with AJ Aljaafreh and Jarrod Luty, and we're just going to talk about the recent USA Parkour Cup that we all went to, except for AJ. He didn't go, but he's going to talk about it anyways. Kent Johns hit Jarrod up and was like, yo, I'm really curious. I got some questions about the comp. You guys were there. It would be dope to hear like a podcast of all these things. So the first question he had for us was basically, can you explain the formatting of the competition? There were two main events. There was freestyle and then there was speed. And both of them were done a little bit differently than like most competitions we've seen in recent history. Some things were good, some things were not so good. And it also caused, because of the way things were judged, it caused some outcomes that weren't universally agreed upon, so to speak. So we're going to dive into that. So, all right, cool. We're diving in. I guess I'm diving in.
Yeah, let's read off that.
All right, so the first one was just how did the formatting affect the competition? But first, I just want to talk about the formatting. So do you want to talk about speed first, or do you want to just go into style?
I feel like speed, well, I mean, we can talk about speed because he wanted to talk about both events. So,
Okay.
All right, so basically how speed went was you had a starting spot. They showed you the route. There were some parts of the course where you could not go to, and it was taped off. If you went past the tape, then you got a penalty. Penalties don't add time, but a better way to explain it is if you and another person had gotten the same time, but you got a penalty, that other person would take your spot.
And this is the biggest change in format that we've seen from any other competition, because like the way that it happened was it didn't matter what your time was if you didn't get penalties. So let's say 10 people competed, right? 9 of them got 20 seconds on the course, but they all got one penalty, right?
Yep.
But then the last person got 5 minutes. Took them 5 minutes to complete the course, but they got no penalties. They won because they had no penalties.
Yep.
So it basically means whoever has the lowest time with the lowest penalties,
Yep.
that's the person that wins, which I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah.
I don't know where y'all are at with it.
I mean, like, I understand where they're coming, where they need to keep you within, like, a specific part of the course.
Mm-hmm.
But there were definitely some hands over, the tape and, if it wasn't a noticeable penalty, they didn't really count it. It was more of like if you fell in a spot where you were not supposed to touch the ground.
Yeah.
If your foot slightly went past over the tape, they didn't really count it as a penalty. It was more as if you like if you fell down, or you definitely like hit a penalty.
The kids comp had a weird one though. They had a pretty difficult lache to cat.
Yep.
And if you didn't make the cat and you touched the ground, there was like a little box on the ground. If you touched that box, that was a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the kids couldn't do it. So what they ended up having to do was shimmy across the bars.
Yep.
Now, what I hate about that is that there's ways to put these penalties in place to where they just creative course design, which they're good at. WFPF is good at that. They just need to put more time into thinking about how the course needs to be designed, so that what ends up happening is it makes you not want to take a certain route because it's a slower route.
Yep.
But what they did instead, they took kind of the easier way out and they said, we don't want you to take this route because it'll give you, so we're just going to say it'll give you a penalty if you do. You're either going to take this super slow, boring route, or you're going to go for the fast one and take a penalty. Okay. Instead, what I think that they should do is more like NAPC, and I know that the event organizers don't like being compared to NAPC, but NAPC undeniably has a good format that is universally agreed upon to be good. So I don't see why we have to reinvent the wheel with that. Like, they design their courses in a way where if you can pick your own route as long as you stay within, keep your arm on the right side of the flag, where they just didn't do that.
And you also got 2 attempts, right?
You did get 2 attempts, and they combined both scores. So basically,
and they combined the scores and they combined the penalties as well.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, and then you said that the guy who got first place, Tavon.
Yep.
He got 2 penalties,
No,
right? Or
no.
did he get 1?
He came up to me and he came up to me and basically was like, "Oh, I think I got 2 penalties, so you're probably going to take it," because his time was faster than mine. But if he did get a penalty, like 1 or 2 penalties, I would beat him because I had no penalties.
Okay.
But it turns out he didn't have any penalties, so he ended up taking first.
I found that interesting, because I did go to the qualifier and it was the same thing. It was like you got 2 attempts, but they didn't average them together. You could just try and beat your first score.
Oh, okay. So they would take the best time.
Yeah,
basically.
and they just took your best time. So I thought it was interesting that the qualifier was different than the
because there were actually some people that were really good, but they slipped up on that first block, and it basically killed their time.
Interesting.
Yeah, I personally prefer having 2 runs and keeping your best time. That would be my favorite way to have it judged.
I agree.
But at the same time, I don't think it's a bad idea to combine scores, because then it shows not only who was all out the fastest, but who was also consistent. What I don't like is the way that the penalties stopped you from winning.
Yep.
Interesting.
I think it would even be more acceptable if the penalties just added maybe half a second. Because when it's really competitive, half a second is a lot. You know what I mean?
That is true.
Personally, I don't think any penalty should be there.
Yeah.
I think if the athlete can find a creative way to beat the course you set up, let them do that. Because what we've seen at NAPC is, hey, we want you to go across the pit, and we don't want you to jump in. So if you jump in, it's going to be slow. What we want you to do is we want you to cat to the wall and then do a big lache. And then what ended up happening is one athlete found out, hey, you know what we can do? We can tack off of the wall, pre the bar, and then jump across. And as soon as one athlete found that, every other athlete was like, oh, that's the path. And now that became the path. And it just shows what parkour is about, finding that path. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But making these penalties makes it so that, hey, you can't get creative anymore. You have to run this path. And I don't like that.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think it does create a lack of creativity.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that it needs to be more skill-based as well. I feel like there was a lot of running involved.
There's a lot.
It is a speed course,
I did see your runs, and it looked like you were more exhausted by the endurance rather than having to do
the skills.
Certain things.
Yeah, because you aced all the skills. It was just a matter of sprinting
I remember
hard.
you had the lache over the fence.
Yeah, that I definitely could have underbarred it, but I didn't practice it during warm up, so I didn't want to risk trying it and messing up. I was already doing the lache. So
how'd you like the course overall?
The course was interesting. I wouldn't say it was bad, but I mean, I've done in my opinion, funner, speed comps.
In their defense, it is hard for them to set up like with what they have
the big
in that
blocks
area.
That they have, yeah,
it's hard. I think they came up with a pretty interesting course, all things considered. There were at least the first spot with the jump to cat and then like kind of striding across the top.
Yep.
That was a cool challenge. And then there wasn't really any challenging parts until we got to the underbar section. Mm-hmm. But that was also kind of a cool way to see different people approach it. And then finally the last part with the Lachey. There was at least a challenge in the beginning, middle, and end, which is good. But
I don't think they should have added the fence, in my opinion.
Fence was a little weird.
Yeah, because
breaking.
Yeah, people kept hitting that cat grab, and it was pushing the fence.
That's
and
right at the beginning.
And they needed to tell everyone to stop jumping on the fence so they could fix it. They actually had to flip it upside down, and then they had to like wire the fence to the bar that it was on. Yeah, so like every time you would hit it, it wouldn't like bend and it was like crunching in.
Yeah, it was
me and you have been to a few comps, so like we were talking about it earlier, where there's like unsafe measures that should probably be established before like judged upon.
Mm-hmm. So I guess we can just talk about style now, about how the formatting was.
I do wish, just last thing on speed is some of the kids did get kind of screwed over by the penalties.
Yep.
Which is fine.
Explain one of the penalties. I would love to hear like what did someone get penalized for specifically?
So, let's see. All right, so I'm just going to talk about the kids one, right?
Okay.
So they were expected to tack off this little block, grab the bar, Lachey to cat, right?
Okay.
But the thing is, the bar had 2 pieces of white tape on it. So if you grab the bar outside of those 2 pieces of white tape, that's a penalty.
Really?
If you did the cat outside of the pieces of tape,
really?
That was a penalty.
So it was almost like imaginary boundaries from the creators rather than like you have to go over this rail.
Exactly.
Interesting. That is
and that's
way
a whole,
different.
That's a whole different thing. That's what I'm saying.
That's weird. At the qualifier, it wasn't like that. The qualifier, you were there.
Yep.
I mean, it was very much like just a speed course.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then in the adult one, the one that was kind of weird was there was a sharp 90-degree turn that you had to do. You basically had to step up onto a block and then do a 90-degree vault over a higher block next to you. And what ended up happening was it was really natural to want to grab the side of the vault.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't.
But you couldn't do that.
Wow.
If your hands went on the side, that's a penalty. And to me, that's a really dumb penalty because you're just making it harder for no reason. Because good athletes are going to be like, hey, it's fastest to hold on to this.
It's weird though, right? Because a challenge is a challenge.
Yeah.
So it could be looked at like that, but I do get what you mean. It's also, if you're looking for efficiency, that's actually just an efficient thing that's being cut out now, and it's
that's what I'm saying. They're cutting out things.
Yeah.
They're removing a lot of the.
I personally like the method of physical boundaries being the cause of you being slower.
Yeah. Even Apex International had a cool one, right? They said, we don't want you running across the floor. So what they did was they put 2 kiddie pools full of water in the middle of the course. And one of the people that I think won just ran through them.
Yeah.
He was like, so let me get this straight. I can run through those if I want to.
Yeah.
They're like, yep. So he did.
Yeah.
And that's respectable.
Yeah, because everyone else was trying to jump and jump into support and pull over the bar. And then, Joe.
And here we are 3 years later still talking about that.
That's interesting.
That's cool.
I think, that's very strong. I like that.
And I don't know if that's the best approach, but I think I like that approach better than this one, where it's just penalizing you for dumb stuff.
I agree. For sure.
Yep.
But I also will say I thought it was pretty cool. It was pretty hype watching.
I did not know about the tape though. That's
you gotta stay.
That really blows my mind.
Because the way that they did it was the first cat, people were practicing it the day before. They were actually doing the tack pre to the bar, and they saw that people were doing.
And they moved it back.
Are you serious?
Dead ass.
Wow.
They changed the course to make it. To be fair, it was set up for the kids' course, so they might have planned to change it anyways. But the way that it looked from where I was sitting was they saw that people could do a challenge that they didn't want them to do, and so they moved it back. I don't think that's what they did though. To be fair to them, I think they just moved it back to make it bigger.
Okay.
For the adults.
You got anything else on speed?
No, I mean it's.
Did you have to qualify on site for speed?
No. There was no. I didn't have.
Was there a qualifier?
There was not. No.
I had to qualify for.
Yeah, but you don't have to pay to enter. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So
you would have went for free.
That's something to cover too. Then, so at a qualifier, it just made it free for you to go, but you could still just go and compete in the main event if you paid.
Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yep. No, I didn't have to qualify. They just had a course.
For style, did you have to qualify?
I had to. I had to do the live after 5.
Okay, so you didn't have to qualify for speed. You just paid to get in.
Yep.
You had to qualify for finals for
Yep.
style. Interesting.
Yep. Sure did.
Yep. So yeah, style.
Style
is really where the big controversy comes in. But here's the thing, man. Okay, there are things that I disagree with, but I got to start off by saying, because I know we're going to be complaining a lot over the next 10, 15 minutes. I got to start off by saying, to me, it was the best WFPF event.
Oh, yeah,
the
for
best
sure.
USA Parkour event that they've held.
Definitely
the
the most
courses were
entertaining to watch.
dope. The athletes were amazing. It was super hype. I thought things were set up really well and done way better than any in the past.
Exactly, yeah.
There were some things with the judging and some of the criteria.
But again, just to cover, I feel like this goes over the board with every competition, depending on who the athlete is.
Yep.
Not saying any names, but you all know every time that there's a comp, there's always someone online or in person that's like, I didn't like that judging format, which is fair, and I think that should be discussed and everything and every time. Yeah. And the truth is if you don't like the judging of something, either make your own comp or go to the comps that you do like the judging for.
Yep. And to touch on that a little bit more, I talked to Robbie about this as well. The way that I see it, our sport is still developing for sure, without a doubt.
Yeah.
In my opinion, what judging needs to do is it needs to take the community consensus of what a good line is, and the judging system needs to be built around rewarding that.
Yep. Absolutely.
Instead of putting just random restrictions and seeing who can make a run that fits all those restrictions. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to make the best run in the general community's eyes. Yeah. It just means that they're going to make the best run fitting that. And I think that's a bad way to do it. And when you have results that the community as a whole doesn't agree with, to me, that says that the judging criteria should change, not the athletes that are competing changing to fit the judging criteria.
That's very well said.
Otherwise, I think the athletes that want to just throw down sick runs are going to not go to the competition because...
Very well said.
Yeah. So basically the way that they did it was difficulty, flow, execution, versatility, and that's it, right? Just the 4?
I think that's it, yeah.
Yeah, just the 4. So we'll start off
40 points.
Yeah. So we'll start off with difficulty. So basically, each competitor begins with a score of 0. For each somersault rotation, the athlete is awarded a half point. Double rotations or twists can accumulate to 1.5 points. All right, so for an example, a Kong wouldn't be any points. A Kong front would be awarded a half point. A Kong gainer, a point, and a Kong gainer full could be, as 2 points. Mm-hmm. So basically, each skill that you do, they're gonna, rate it, a point, point and a half, 2 points, depending on how difficult the skill was. Not necessarily the line itself, just the individual skills, which I feel is a very, very, very big problem because, difficulty shouldn't just be looked as just the skill itself, but how you transition into it and how you get to it. Because anyone, they could, do a double cork off the block, but if they did swing through, or if they did cork swing through double cork off one of the blocks, it would be way more difficult because of the transition and not just doing a regular.
So then it'd be difficulty of flow or difficulty of...
And that's the weird thing with style because sorry, I lost my train of thought because I saw low battery.
Difficulty, so instead.
Well, here's the difficulty thing because difficult goes into everything, right? Difficulty goes into everything, and literally that example you just gave with the cork swing, right?
Yep.
So let's say somebody does double cork, land, and then a cork flat.
Yep.
Versus somebody that does cork, swing, double cork off the ledge. The moves are the same. And in that system, yes, I'm sure the judge isn't going to be stupid. The judge is probably going to reward it accordingly. But just purely based off that system, that wouldn't be rewarded accordingly. So that to me already says that there's some things that aren't fully covered just by the way that it's worded. I'm sure the judges are given a more in-depth briefing on it. But the other thing that doesn't cover is you did a fat lache pre, a bar-to-bar level lache pre that was harder than I would say probably 85% of the things that were done in lines. But
it's not rewarded because
according to that, it's not a rotation, so it's not rewarded.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. So that didn't get any difficulty.
We don't know.
I don't
know.
I don't know, to be honest.
Okay.
It might have, but
I think it did, but
yeah,
we don't.
I
based
like what
on
you
just
said
the
though
wording.
about the cork swing through scenario in two different situations,
Mm-hmm.
and that I thought of that immediately. Like whenever you sent me your videos of your lines, I was thinking probably a mistake, but I was thinking NAPC, judging system.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, the connection, the difficulty. I texted you those exact things. I was like, all of those things, you ticked all the boxes, is what I said. And I was going strictly off of what I saw at NAPC, and then you text me and you're like, yo, I got 5th. And it was very interesting to hear that, because then I had to remember, oh, this is a different comp.
Yeah,
Different layout.
exactly.
Yeah.
Their difficulty does not mean the same difficulty that it did in
yeah,
Vancouver.
which I definitely think should change as well, the difficulty. Because
we
I
got
feel
a
like
lot to talk about with difficulty.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Because not only that, I feel like with the judges, I don't feel like they're updated with the skill level now.
Right.
Because like a double cork a couple years ago, or even 10 years ago, was seen as a very high skill, but now I wouldn't consider it a very high level skill.
Yeah.
It's on the high end of mediocrely difficult.
Yeah.
But it's not like a high level skill.
No. Yeah, definitely. So that is also another part of
and because of that partial, I don't know what the reason was, but Jarrod scored a 9.5, Sean Batista scored a 9.5, and Bailey scored a 9.5.
Yep.
But when you look at it, the hardest move in your run was probably worm gainer.
Okay.
Which I don't think has really been done in other competitions, so that's super high level.
Yep.
Hardest thing in Sean's run was handstand gainer.
Yep.
An insanely hard skill.
Yep.
So 2 insanely hard skills. Hardest thing in Bailey's run was probably a double A twist. That double A twist across the gap.
Yeah.
Which was a pretty small gap, big drop.
Yep.
But he was still rewarded the same difficulty as Sean's and Jarrod's, just because he had a bunch of doubles. Don't get me wrong, it was a very hard run.
Oh yeah, for
but
sure.
in my opinion, that Jarrod's run and Sean's run really shined with high difficulty, but they weren't rewarded because they capped out at the 9.5.
Yeah.
And other people also capped out at 9.5.
Because they doubled down on
Exactly.
a couple difficult moves that scored similarly.
And in my opinion, how I would have judged it, looking it over again, is I do think Bailey probably had the next hardest run, but I would give that more like an 8 or an 8.5.
Okay.
Because that always leaves room for if somebody else comes out with a huge banger, then they can up the difficulty more. I hate the idea of you maxed out your score in this thing, now you can't do better.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make a fun competition to watch. I know Eric's had this problem in the past where with Art of Motion, they said, hey man, we already gave you all your difficulty points, we want to see other things. But the community doesn't. So why are you making us watch stuff we don't want to see?
I think
Let the athletes do hard ass shit so that we can be wowed by it, because that's what we want to see. I don't know why competitions have to put these limits on things that try to shape how the athlete moves.
I think it's very important for anybody that's going to run a competition to keep up with the culture and currently what is the most difficult move going on, because it's not hard to tell. You go and look at the top athletes and you see what people are
also can I just put in not only am I I was saying about the judges being updated on the skill level today, also informed on the skills that are actually being done, because I feel like the judges aren't aware of what's being thrown, because new skills are being created every day.
Daily,
we talked about this earlier, the scoring of a double full compared to your croc handspring off the side, and how that's probably a more difficult move with less people doing it today.
If people are doing double fulls in all their lines, obviously it's not difficult because everyone's doing it. Yeah. But I feel like Sean's the only one that did a handstand gainer. There's a reason why.
There's a reason why.
It's
freaking hard.
Hard and scary, and the risk is also a major thing that should play in difficult. The risk of something bad happening, should be rewarded as well. You know what I'm
Great
saying?
point.
This right here ties too deeply into versatility, so I'm just gonna use that as a segue to go into versatility.
All right, let's start with versatility.
Yeah, you have a lot to say about versatility.
Oh, I got too much to say about versatility, man.
We've talked about this in the past.
So the way that they judge versatility, I'm gonna let you read it off if you got it.
Yeah. So basically, with versatility, there's certain things that you need to hit in the course. So that being said, you need to hit a bar, a ledge or drop, a vault, the wall, and a floor trick. Yeah. So basically, let's see.
So you have to do a skill on bar, a skill on floor, a skill on a ledge, and a skill on a vault.
Yep. So athletes should note that it is not acceptable to simply touch or pass through a particular area. Movements must be satisfactorily executed within each area to achieve the 2-point score. There may be a case where a 1-point score is awarded if the athlete does something basic and simple in a particular section.
So, for example, if they do a Webster off of a ledge that's about chest high, they're probably only getting 1 point for ledge. Now, if they do a double full off of that ledge, they're going to get 2 points. Or if they do a Webster off of one ledge and then a backflip off another ledge, they might get their 2 points.
Yep.
But you have to hit all of those apparatus with a high enough level skill to tick it off.
Yeah, let me just add that each category is a max score of 10 points.
Yeah.
So the max score that you can get overall is a 40. So I'm just adding that in there. So for me, I did not do a wall trick. Or no. It was a floor and a vault.
Yep.
And I hit bar, ledge, and wall. So I got a total max score of 6 points for versatility.
I mean,
because I didn't do a floor,
points.
and I didn't do a floor, and I didn't do a vault, which I feel like it's difficult sometimes to add those in the line depending on the setup. So if getting to a vault is going to be difficult and putting your line together, then it's just not going to make the line good because you could be doing something better, but you have to get to that vault and you have to get to that bar somehow.
And there were a few things to vault in the setup that we had, but the main thing that people were going to vault was just, a vault out in the open.
Yep.
And it was very removed from the rest of...
Like, what are some, difficult vaults that you can think of? Besides,
weird,
a con gainer?
Like, con gainer, cast gainer, I guess, might count.
No, it's not a vault.
Yeah, it might not.
I feel like it's more of a
You
drop.
might cast the transition and then into drop.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, because scoot double full off of a vault doesn't count as a vault trick.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
You have to be going all the way over.
So
and the
what
way
about
that they count that would be the scoot is a transition to get on top, and then the double full is a drop trick.
Well, I know Steven did the tack Rudy over
he
the
did
vault.
elevator.
I don't know
So
if
you
that's...
don't know. See, is
that a wall trick?
See, whenever last time me and you talked about this, and after getting to watch basically everybody's lines,
Yep.
me personally, I don't like the idea of versatility. I think it should just be gone.
Yeah, I think
I got to add this in real quick before we don't. Now, they were very clear, and this was my bad as a coach and just like the athlete's bad as an athlete as well. They did repeatedly say, if you need clarification on something, ask the judges. Like, they said that constantly.
Yeah, and honestly, that was my fault because I'm just so used to
It was hard
different
because it runs
formats.
so good.
Yeah, I'm just so used to it being a format to where it's like just come up with the line and we'll
well, that's what I mean.
Score it.
So like the reason I say no versatility is I understand going to a comp, being given a task, and having to overcome it. I think there's a big part of parkour that is important. But whenever it comes to the self-expression side of things, it's hard whenever you've been training one way for 8 months and then you come in and then they say, oh, by the way, you have to make all this work. It's almost like throwing a little bit of a skill comp into a style.
Yeah.
And I like that separation of having a skill comp, a speed, and a style. And I feel like versatility kind of dips some skill into there whenever its style is difficulty, flow, and creativity. I feel like versatility is a little too much.
Here's how I feel about the versatility, man. I feel what you're saying. I think versatility is a cool idea.
Yep.
I really like the idea. I don't like that the execution of it is based on apparatus, though. I feel like it should be based on movement. So, for example, if you do 2 spin moves, right? Don't do another spin move because we already seen you spin.
Yeah.
Or if you do 2 backflip moves, don't do another backflip move. We've already seen you do that. Or if all you're doing is like massive, you know, one big trick and then moving over to another big trick. We've seen your big tricks. Like, it should be structured more in a way where it's based off of the movement you do, not where you do the movement. That's my opinion on it. Especially because if it's based on where you do the movement, the course determines if you can put together a good run or not, or if you have to make this choppy, weird run just to move around.
To watch at all.
Well, see, I think so. Maybe versatility, but then allow difficulty if you're killing, like you were saying with Eric. Like if he has more to do, give him the points for it if he's going to risk doing it. You know, the risk and the reward. I think versatility could work fine if there's no maxing out your difficulty.
I strongly believe there shouldn't be a max out. Like if there's a max out, then you're not leaving room for somebody who you haven't seen yet to do better.
I mean, I think that there's a fix right there. Have versatility, but don't let difficulty be maxed out.
But I feel like versatility also comes into play with flow because, you know, if you're trying to hit everything in versatility, it's going to mess up with your flow and connection.
Okay, so you mean like you need to do a vault, but your whole line is connected to where you would have to stop and literally run and get that vault in.
And I felt like some of the athletes were doing that because they were getting the versatility points, so they were trying to run to each object or, you know, part of the course and do their skill.
I think that's a great point because like you were saying, Joey, the general consensus, what you're seeing people do, style lines don't correlate with that at all.
Exactly.
So that's
what I'm saying.
Now, I will say, to play devil's advocate real quick, if it was kept this way, I think there is some cool stuff that can come out of it, right? There's a lot of strategy. There's a lot of planning behind that. Yeah. The problem that we have right now is, as a community, that's not how we train. Yeah. And so that's why there's so much backlash on this category in particular, because it's just not the way we train. Yeah. I don't go out to a spot and think, well, I got to make sure I can swing at this spot, otherwise I'm not going to put my run together. That's not how we train parkour. That's not what parkour is. Mm-hmm. We go to the spot and we create the coolest stuff that we can with what's there.
Yep. Yeah.
And so that's why I think that's why most of us don't like it. With that said, that could be, let's say it was universally adopted by every competition, that could cause some cool things to happen to where we really do see a lot more variety in the skills that are being done on each apparatus, because people have to train those separately, and they really have to plan their line about making it flow into each thing. I just think that it's so far removed from what we currently do as a community that it's going to be hard to make the community.
It's almost an emotional response. I feel like I like what you said about general consensus. I like that. It shows that the community drives things where the community wants it to go. Mm-hmm. And I think you're right, though. I think it's almost putting something else into play, like versatility, could create and expand the mindset of a parkour athlete in a great way. I think you're correct. I think right now the general consensus is like, no.
Exactly, and that's the hard part, because so many people don't like it that it's not the way.
In time.
Yeah. It's rough, too. I'm going to get a little into the politics of things. It's rough, too, because people already have a really bad taste in their mouth with WFPF, just in general. Yeah. And so then when they're the ones trying to shape the way that the general community trains, comes off even worse. Yeah. So if I was in their position, the first thing I would do is be like, all right, guys, we hear your feedback. We are going to change this. We want to hear what you guys think is good ideas. That's what I would do if I were in their shoes, because I think that's the smart move for their own sake.
And I think to be clear, I think you're absolutely right. I think out of everything we talked about, that is a major problem. Yeah. That a lot of people don't want to just face. The WFPF doesn't have the best name, and people are shaded by that. Mm-hmm. So they don't want the push of culture to come from them.
Exactly.
I think that is very important to say out loud.
And it's got to be said, because that's a lot of people are feeling it.
Yeah. But the truth is the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if a lot of people disagree with the judging criteria, not a lot of people are going to continue to go to the event.
And that's what I'm worried about, because it was a dope event.
It was a really good event.
Up until they called Jarrod's name, that event was amazing. Yeah. And then they called Jarrod's name. Everyone went silent. Everybody's jaw dropped because they called his name for 5th place. Everybody knew he had first place. And that moment right there is when I was like, oh, crap. I don't know if there's going to be a next year of this.
Yeah.
Like, or a successful next year of this. Mm-hmm. I hope there will be. I hope there's good changes, but that scares me. We got more stuff, though.
Yeah. On another thing about the judges as well, I just feel like they need to get more qualified judges. Now, I'm not saying that the WFPF or whoever didn't train them correctly. It's just that I feel like we need to be, judged by like competitors themselves or like previous competitors.
Yeah. This goes deep into like what I think has been a big problem for competitions in general. Mm-hmm. The people that are qualified to be in the, I don't know what you call it, like the staff positions, such as like judging, commentary, camera ops, like things like that are actually going to help make the event better. The people that are qualified for that are still competing in the competitions because we don't really have many old retired athletes. And on top of that, the old retired athletes got to go find a job to pay rent. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And most of these jobs are volunteer. So like it's really hard to get qualified people in these positions.
Yeah. You commentated?
I did do commentary. Yeah. It was so much fun.
Yeah, you're really good at it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I just feel like it's not that my score got messed over. I feel like my flow was underscored. I got an 8.5 for flow, but I felt like everything that I did just connected.
Well, what was interesting was before judging happened, before you told me what happened, you just sent me that line. Me being your friend, I still thought, and I can say in an unbiased opinion, your creativity was just, and connectivity. Everything was connected. It was probably one of your best lines at any comp I've ever seen. It wasn't just, this is a good line that you did at a comp. I've seen you at all of your comps, and this was like, you did the best of the best that you've ever done. So whenever you text me, you're like, hey, I got fifth. I was like, oh no, something happened. Something's different.
This is a great time. We'll just dive right into connectivity because it's a good segue.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thinking back on your run, there's one spot that I remember. I was like, oh, that was clearly a small mistake, and that's when you did the croc touchdown to the palm flip, and there was just like a small little step there. That was it. And here's the way that they judge connectivity, which is why I'm confused how you got an 8.5. They start you at a 10.
Yep.
And every blemish they take away a little bit, right?
Wow.
Somehow they saw enough things to drop him down 0.5.
I wish we had these
two full points.
Man. Yeah.
2 full points.
No, it was a 1.5 because I was at 8.
Oh, sorry, 1.5. My bad. Wait.
It was, I got an 8.5.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Point and a half.
What else do you think it could have been?
I don't know. Maybe the Kong, but like I purposely did the Kong to transition into my palm flip because.
Oh no! It was very clear that you did that. I think maybe it was the tiny little before you jump to the bar. Yeah, but that's not a 0.5 a deduction. Like
people have hand tapped and like stumbled to their to stop themselves.
Yeah. Like full stop, stood up, and then gone, and they had higher connectivity.
Interesting.
Which I thought was weird. I also this dives into like one of the other really big problems I saw with this competition. They scored on a 0.5 system.
Yep.
So if you got a deduction, it was a 0.5 deduction. That's so much when it's only out of 40 points.
Yep.
Yeah. 0.5 is huge. Like, I think if they did 0.1 deductions or 0.25 deductions, we would have had things a lot closer. Because I know Anthony was talking about, he saw that there could have been a multiple way tie for 5th place and for the podium spots as well if they didn't change the scores. So the thought is when they were deliberating to see who was on the podium, there might have been like 4 ties for 3rd place. Mm-hmm. And then they just had to be like, well, I guess let's keep watching these runs and try to snuff out some deductions. Don't know if that's what happened.
Yeah.
Can't say it is, can't say it's not.
Yeah. Good observation, though. Yeah, I mean,
by scoring on a 0.5 basis, that will happen more often than not. But if you do a 0.1 deduction or 0.25, that'll happen way less often and cause better judging.
Also, I feel like since the competitions are getting bigger and there's going to be more athletes coming in, I feel like if you bail on your run, it should just be like an automatic
that would
there was some weird stuff with NAPC with that though.
Yeah.
Where they gave a couple people bail scores, which their bail score was basically 1 point in every category or something like that. And a lot of people got bail scores for things that were kind of controversially not bails.
Yeah.
Like kind of landed heavy on their heels, dropped back into a back roll, but because they touched their butt, they're like, that's a bail.
Oh, like, so it could have been mistaken with true connectivity.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay.
Exactly.
Wow.
So that gets weird too, moving forward. But
it's hard, man. The thing
I see the merit in it too, though.
Yeah, it's hard to judge a style comp,
yeah.
Especially because we're in such a creative space with parkour at the moment, and it's almost anything counts as long as it looks pretty. But then whenever you're in a comp, if you put hands down, it's like, well, did you put hands down because you had to, or because it helped your line?
Because it helped transition. Yeah. And that's where skilled judges will know the difference. But people that are just watching, if they see a hand go down, they'll just mark it as a deduction, even though it can be a good
this all goes back to keeping up with culture, seeing what people are doing. And I think for someone to start a competition, I think that's very important. And it sounds boring, but like, be on Instagram, going through the top post hashtags. See, if you obviously you can't be traveling around meeting all these guys all the time, but see what they're doing, see what their lines are looking like as you create the comp. And then you're going to have less parkour athletes being angry.
Hell, because hire one consultant that just does that for fun, and they can tell you. Like,
even you've been to so many comps. You know, that could be a potential parkour job too. Is you going out and maybe not judging, but training the judges to see what you see. For sure.
And that would be cool. But again, like WFPF does a really good job of paying the people that work on their competitions. There's not a ton of volunteer work. It's all like, hey, you guys are literally making this happen for us, so we're gonna pay you at least something, which is cool. But I know a lot of competitions don't do that. And so in order for that to turn into a position, people like me are just gonna have to volunteer our services and hope that they're even interested in it. When a lot of the times, in my experience, volunteering, people aren't even interested in it.
Well, and I think in time, I mean, we're in such an early stage, there will be a demand for it. It'll be like, oh, if we want our competition to stand out and be accepted by the general community, we're going to need someone like that to be here for this.
I know that they need like guidelines too, like for this competition, and there are rules. But as the sport grows, they need to like see what's good for the athletes and not just for the competition itself. Like, oh, this isn't working, let's change it so that more people enjoy doing it. And I feel like once they get that down, then like it'll blow up. You know?
And WFPF for the most part has been good about changing things. Like, they've made slight tweaks in pretty much every event that I've been to where, and I know for me personally, when I was competing in them, granted I was staying with the event organizers, right? So I was talking with them afterwards, but a lot of us, like me, Joe Scandrett, Eric, a couple other people were staying in the same house, and after the competition was over, they came to us and were like, hey man, you guys mind, let's just sit down at the table for like 15-20 minutes and talk about the event. I want to hear what you guys liked, what you guys didn't like, and possible changes. And then they implemented those in the next coming years. So I know that they're really good at implementing changes, or they at least can be. And if they just keep taking that approach with it and, hear everybody out and don't get angry about it, but just take it as constructive criticism, then that would be dope for the next years. But dude, there's some bad taste in some people's mouths right now,
Speaking of the bad taste, just to address the elephant in the room, you did get a lot of Instagram comments. What were people saying in that you recognized in the comments?
Basically, I posted my run. I posted that here's my line that got me 5th. I posted the reason why. The reason why was because I didn't get scored as high on versatility because I didn't do a ground move and I did not do a vault. And so that pushed me to 5th place. And everyone was just confused as to why I got 5th. And they just thought it should have been rewarded better than I got. And I just, was just explaining to them that this is how they judge their competition. This is their criteria. I may not agree with it just because it makes it harder for me to create a good line. I felt like if I did do those 2 skills like a vault and I had to do a ground, it was just really hard to get to that vault because that's not where my line ended up. And so I felt like it shouldn't have been scored, as low. I don't think versatility should be scored as like. You
don't think it should be weighted as heavily?
Yeah. I think you should look at the line overall. How difficult was the line? Not just the individual moves. How difficult the connections were. So your flow, how well your line flowed. If you took any back steps, any extra steps, hand taps, or anything like that, and how well you executed your line. Not just the individual tricks itself. How well did you do it overall? And versatility, if that's the way that they're going to do it, then that's fine. But I don't agree with the versatility thing. And if they're going to change it, then maybe I will consider about going back. If I don't like the competition itself, me personally, I don't have to participate in it. But that doesn't mean other people don't have to compete in it. If that's what they want to do, that's fine. I just don't like it. I prefer some other competition settings, and until they do change it, if I see that they change the judging criteria or the format somehow, possibly going back, it was a fun event. I enjoyed it. I met some more people that I've been looking on Instagram, like, oh wow, it's just great to finally meet you, type deal. And just the overall vibe was really good.
It was really.
I enjoyed going second because
you were telling me that the whole time. You're like, dude, no matter what with the judging, this is still the hypest comp.
Oh, for sure, definitely.
So hyped.
The hypest competition that they've ever hosted.
People threw
for sure.
Down. The courses were dope.
Yeah, for sure. It was just very entertaining to watch. Because I'm glad I got to go second. I was ready to go after that warm up, and I had my line. I was ready to go, and they called my name second. And I already had my line. I didn't have to forget anything or like cool down or anything.
Nice.
After Twitch went, I was ready to go.
Nice.
And so I just, I enjoyed the event itself and getting to watch it.
And how was it, speed then style?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And how long was the speed comp? How long did it last?
Usually they have a schedule based on like how they're gonna run it. Like the speed will go on for this time. They'll do the awards, whatever. They'll rebuild. But usually the competitions go longer than expected.
Because they also had the youth comp, the youth speed comp, and the adult speed comp.
And it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
No, Friday.
Sunday.
Friday. It was just Saturday, Sunday. So basically, it started with speed.
Yeah.
Then it went live after 5. And then they announced the winners that night. And then the next day, it started with the youth, and then big trick, and then the freestyle finals.
Okay, so the Alive After 5 is the qualifier for the finals for style.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
What is Alive After 5?
In my opinion, is the dopest thing out there, man.
Explain it.
I love Alive After 5. I think that's the coolest thing that they have going for this event. So the way the Alive After 5 works, it started with 5 minutes, they moved it down to 3 minutes. That's why the name is weird. You have, I believe, 5 athletes on the course at the same time. You have 3 minutes to just train on the course. Do your thing on the course. Do lines, do tricks, do whatever, hype up the crowd, play off of each other, whatever you want to do for those 3 minutes. And then the judges are looking to see what 2 athletes on that course they like the most. Those 2 athletes then move on to the finals. So you have to stand out and throw down while other people are on the course, while things are happening. You have 3 whole minutes, so you can strategize how you want to do it. Mm-hmm. You can go for the whole 3 minutes and gas yourself. You can do 1 line at the start, chill the whole time, and 1 line at the end. You can do little stuff here and there. Really, it's up to you what you do. It's just to show your best qualities to the judges. And if they like you, then you move through.
That actually sounds awesome.
Dude, for me, I don't know how you felt about it.
It's horrible, bro.
No.
I mean, it's fun and everything, but, dude, I get so tired.
Yeah. You did look at the
at the end, I was like, oh, my God, I'm so glad it's over. I just...
Now, did
Let me ask this. Can you see a world where a better qualified athlete for finals would not make it through that competition, Alive After 5, over somebody worse than them?
Yes.
You can, really.
Wait, say that one more time.
Do you
what you're saying is... Okay, continue.
Let's say there's 5 athletes on the course.
Okay.
2 of them are definitely better than the other 3.
Oh yeah, sometimes.
Do you think any of the other 3 would ever knock out these 2?
Not really.
Probably never, right?
Not unless they like messed up a lot.
Exactly.
But other than that, no. Sometimes they. I felt like this year they were really good about spreading. The more experienced. So last year they kind of like put like 5 good people together, and it was like.
So,
it was a cool.
So you guys think that qualifier was a wonderful way of getting the top athletes in the finals?
I personally think it's great.
Okay,
I
awesome.
love it.
And you?
No,
Awesome.
for sure. I mean, it just depends on who's in who's heat. But
they also accept wild cards as well.
Mm-hmm. Who's the wild card for this one?
There were a lot.
Really?
Yeah, this is one thing that I love and hate. So they picked. I think there were 5 heats.
Yep.
I think they had like 7 wild cards that they
Really?
brought in. Yeah. So here's what I don't like about that. I don't like the fact that Alive After 5 almost doesn't matter. Because let's say Eric Mukmetchin.
Post
Yes.
Alive After 5
Yes.
for finals. They had 7 wild cards.
That came from Alive After 5.
No.
Yeah, so check it out.
No.
Let's say Eric Mukmetchin, hype athlete, everybody wants to see him in the finals. Let's say he goes out on Alive After 5. He walks up to the tallest thing. He just sits down and crosses his arms, right? And just big chilling. Because they want him in the finals, and the fact that they do wild cards, they can, theoretically, I don't think they ever would, but theoretically they could say Eric Mukmetchin's also in finals as a wild card. Mm-hmm. That's where it gets weird. In my opinion, what they should do is, okay, wild cards are fine, but I think set it to 3 tops. Yeah. And then the best 3 performing that didn't make it in.
I think just one
Well, I mean,
card sounds good.
Or even one, yeah. But it kind of settles that idea of if you have 5 really talented athletes in one heat, at least that way not only 2 of them will make it out. You have a wild card spot for a third.
I think for exclusivity, none.
No,
if you just didn't make it, you didn't make it. Yeah. And that's okay. Next year, you try and do better. And the thing is if you, let's say in your heat, there were 3 awesome athletes and only, or 4 awesome athletes and only 2 of y'all made it through, it's all good.
Yeah.
It is what it is. That it just so happens that you got stuck with 2 other amazing athletes, and in the finals, that amazing athlete, if he did perform at his best, was probably going to knock you out anyways. True. I mean, maybe.
See, that's kind of how I see it with like, in my opinion, if a wild card makes it through, it's very unlikely that they're going to win the final competition. But what that does is make the event more fun for that wild card athlete. And it strongly depends on what type of competition is being thrown, right? Yeah. So something like NAPC or Art of Motion that's taken very seriously by the community, if they just started throwing in wild cards, people would be pissed. Yeah. Whereas WFPF, they haven't really found a slot for what they are, right? They're not on the same level of being taken seriously like Art of Motion is yet. Yeah. But they're also not just a for fun comp. They're kind of somewhere in the middle of those 2. Yeah. And depending on how they want to go with that, it might be good for them to say no wild cards, or it might be good for them to be like, yeah, we're just going to throw people in the finals so that they can have a good time at our comp. Like,
I get what you're saying.
I kind of see both ways.
I think it's good. I really liked at an APC how exclusive style felt. It was very, to me, important to show how serious these athletes were taking their lines, and if there was even a small stumble, it cost them.
Cost them big, big.
And I felt like it wasn't the same, for this, and it's not because the format needs to be the same, but there were a lot of people that messed up in their runs, but they got scored.
And it sounds to me like, as well, with the judging style overall at NAPC, if someone was knocked out, it was pretty clear. Yep. Everybody knew. Yeah, they got knocked out for that.
Exactly.
And then at this
there was very little controversy.
At this comp, it's like, wait, why did he get deducted to that point? Wait, why did this happen? Wait, what? And so I think there's a lot of stuff that could be cleaned up. I think that if it did get cleaned up and they worked on that versatility with difficulty changes and maybe worked on that wild card thing, I think it could be, outside of the hype of people making it awesome, I think it could generally be an amazing competition.
I agree. I 100% agree. But it's gonna be an uphill battle from this point on just based off of the results that we're
Yeah.
having. I hate this, man. I hate it because this stuff happened, man. I forget what it was. It was an art of motion like qualifier or something. I was saying that in my opinion, this person should have made it through.
Yep.
I didn't say over anybody else. I just said in my opinion, I don't think that one or two of the people that made it into the qualifier should have made it in. I think these people should have made it in over because I like their stuff better. Some people came at me and was like, hold up, man. Like, we worked our ass off to get here. Mm-hmm. We did our absolute best, and you're discrediting the accomplishment that we made by making it in.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that at all with this competition. The dudes that took podium absolutely deserved podium.
Yeah.
I just think that other people also got robbed.
Yeah.
Not robbed because it fit the judging criteria, but I do think there needs to be some tweaks.
Yeah.
Shout out to JB, Sean, and Sean for taking the top 3. They absolutely killed it. So had to get that out there before somebody.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Everyone that was on that podium, absolutely deserved it.
Yeah.
I just felt like because
who won the sickest trick?
Jacob Rainey.
Oh right, of course. I almost forgot.
Oh, did he do the backhand spring?
He did 360 backhand spring.
He popped off, is what he did.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say everyone on that podium definitely deserved it. I just think because the judging isn't, super,
I think the best answer to that is, connect with the culture better, ask more questions to the community.
Yeah, they need to be getting feedback.
Maybe
how can we make this competition better?
Yeah.
To watch, to compete in,
Yeah.
and we want, they want more people to come in, but if they keep having these problems,
it's going to push people.
Yeah, it's going to push people away.
The big question is are you connecting?
Because
if you're connecting with the community, you're going to get a better response. And if you're not, and it's good if you don't get a good response because then you can turn around and start asking questions. And I think next year, like you were saying, sure, there's a big uphill. I think by next year, if they did it right, they asked the right questions, they answered to the community, this could be something really great.
I agree. And something that they did, we didn't even talk about the best trick comp, right?
Oh, yeah, let's run that real quick.
That's a big thing that they changed from last year.
Yep. It was last year, it was actually in the competition for freestyle. You had to do a live after 5, then you had to get through sickest trick, and then if you did make it through that, then you went to finals.
Exactly, it was basically another qualifier for finals.
Really?
Yeah, it was like round 2. So it was first round, then they take some people out, and whoever made it through got the sickest trick. If they took some people out, and then whoever got through sickest trick got to go to the freestyle finals. But now this year they have made it its own separate competition, which I think was an actual smart move.
And that was based off a lot of feedback. A lot of people didn't like the fact that they had to do a big trick comp.
Yeah. Some people aren't good at that, and some people that's all they do.
We all stayed in a hotel together in Vancouver, and we even said at NAPC
with NAPC, I don't like it either.
If it was separated,
yeah,
we said that. So even to see that happen, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. And that goes to show WFPF is willing to change things about the comp, right?
Yeah.
USA Parkour, whatever they're under, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
they're willing to change stuff about the comp, so hopefully it'll improve.
Yeah, no, definitely some improvement to be done, but that's the part, that's the process of a growing sport. It's different when for skating, because skating has been around for so long and they're going to continue to do the X Games how they've been doing it. Parkour hasn't been around as long as skating, so it will just continue to have its problems and competitions. Mm-hmm. Everyone's not going to be satisfied with every competition. I feel like every competition has everyone has their own opinion about it, and there's going to be controversy about the competition and who thought did better than other people, or the judging, or the format, or the course itself. There's always going to be something wrong with it. But I feel like it should be whoever's hosting it's job to take the feedback and apply it to the next time they have the competition.
Yeah. And the better they can do that, the more legitimate it becomes.
Yeah.
Because there's always been small or sometimes big controversies with not so much NAPC because they do a really good job of explaining exactly what they're looking for, but definitely things like art of motion.
Yep.
But the thing is, art of motion did a lot to legitimize itself within our sport. to where everybody is like, this is the most legit platform we have. The USA Parkour Cup still needs to do that through a lot of means, right? One, the community as a whole needs to agree with the top 3 winners.
Yep.
If they don't do that, it's going to feel not legitimate.
Yep.
Another one is getting high-level athletes out there to compete. They're doing a pretty good job of that. We had some really good athletes there this year. And then the final one is, there's another one. Putting on a good show, making sure that I think it's live streamed needs to happen so that people can tune in and get hyped about it. Creating the content afterwards needs to happen so that people are hyped about it. But neither of those things matter if the community doesn't agree with the winners, because then people just write it off as, that's not a legit comp. And the last one, which I hate to talk about, but it is a real one, the prize money.
Oh, I was about to go over there.
The
I was
prize
waiting
money
for my
legitimizes
opportunity
things,
to
man.
plug in right there.
If you're only dropping $300 on first place, that doesn't feel like a legit comp.
No, definitely not.
Just
some people actually, they don't have sponsors. I mean, thankfully we had Intrepid, to help us fly us out there and get our hotel.
But if we didn't, that's a big loss no matter what.
If I was just coming from California, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the USA Parkour Cup and I'm going to win it so I can get that prize money.
Yeah.
But they don't announce any of the prize money until after you podium.
Exactly.
So they can't really guarantee anything. It's for the last couple of years, I feel like it's been dropping immensely.
Pretty much every comp has been. But this one more so than.
Yeah, definitely, because it's supposedly one of the biggest parkour competitions in the United States, and if the prize money is as much as like a regular comp that you would just go to locally, then what's the point of spending all this money? Because the entry fee itself to do both events, I don't know about this year, but last year it was $175.
Yeah,
which is more than every place except first.
Yep.
Just to get in.
Yeah. Exactly, and I got second in speed, and I only got $100 for taking second in speed, which is not even enough to cover the entry fee.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include if you're driving, the gas, your hotel room, if you're flying.
Yeah. On top of that, like something I just thought about is like NAPC, Art of Motion. Those are the 2 big ones right now, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
They have decent prize money. It's not amazing.
Yeah,
it was bigger, but they have good prize money. And so what ends up happening is, not only is it good prize money, but you get to go to like kind of these cool places where everybody is, right?
Yeah.
If you go to NAPC, everyone's there. That's kind of a reward in itself.
Yeah.
If you get invited to Art of Motion, they will fly you to Italy, to Greece, wherever it is.
If you qualify
that's
for
a
the
huge
USA
thing.
Parkour Cup, you should get not just a free entry, but flown out and a hotel room. You should be taken care of. Yeah. But I know it's expensive and everything, but I feel like that's how it should
again
be.
Like you were saying, there's so much there's so much positive to be taken away from some of these comps that you go to, even if you don't win anything.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's this cascading effect, because right now the community's belief is you win Art of Motion, you made it, right? You win NAPC, you made it. These are big things, very legitimate, right? And so what's going to happen is they're going to train to win those competitions.
Yep.
And now when another competition comes along that has to change the way that you train to win it, because it's a different format, and the prize money is only $300, people don't want to train for that because it's not exciting. Now, let's say for example, next year they came out and they said, "Hey, our prize money is $10,000 for first place."
Do you know how?
And they announced that right now. Mm-hmm. People would train whatever style they said would win.
Well, it is because it's serving to the market, and I think that's very important to say. There's more factors to winning NAPC to build yourself as an athlete in the parkour industry. You can go and win first place and not gain anything from it.
At NAPC?
Either comp. Art of Motion, NAPC.
I mean, you'll definitely get some, recognition, but other than that, your life is not going to change.
Yeah, your life won't change like it will at a Mountain Dew competition for skateboarding today, where you win $100,000.
Exactly.
So it definitely takes. You're trying to get every bit that you can. Like you go to NAPC, you're training so hard for NAPC, like you said, because it's like, well, you do get a little bit of recognition, and then if I get home and I start posting on Instagram more and getting more on my personal gains, people are going to watch that. With USA Parkour Cup, that's not quite a thing yet. You don't win that, and then people are like, oh, I'm going to start watching him daily, and then you have that chance of growth in your other social media platforms, your influence on the community, where these 2 comps have done a really good job at establishing what the culture wants, what it needs, and then people going and prepping for those. So I get where you're like, you told me like, I don't know if I want to do this again, because you fly out there and you're training so hard for these other comps that you want to get into, but then you go and you get like 5th place at this comp, and it in a way, it kind of puts it in a blind person's eye that's not into the community. They're like, oh, well, that guy's actually not that good.
Yeah.
But then you're actually just training really hard for what the general consensus of the community likes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
we were kind of talking about that earlier, and that can be upsetting sometimes, because let's say a kid just got into parkour and found you on Instagram and saw that, and they're like, oh, he got 5th in that comp. That's not good parkour.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is not a good thing.
Yeah, that's not.
Sorry, I didn't. We were just.
I gotta get this out so that I'm just fully covered. Now, I did have a conversation on the phone with one of the event organizers, and I kept comparing the event to Art of Motion, Air Whip, and NAPC, right?
Yep.
He kept telling me, but we're not those competitions. I don't want to be compared to those competitions. I'm not comparing USA PK, USA Parkour Cup to those other competitions because I want them to be those competitions. I'm comparing them because those are the gold standard of competitions.
Yep.
Those are universally accepted in our sport as what a competition should be.
Yeah.
They're very different.
Yeah.
NAPC is nothing like Art of Motion, and that's great, but they're both the gold standard. So it needs to be compared to.
Yeah.
If you don't want it compared to it, then I don't know how to give feedback.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
right. I think you're absolutely right. It should be, and they, both of those competitions have earned their way to be that gold standard.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right.
That's pretty much it for me as far as I can think of, unless there's other
topics. So we went over.
What else you got, Jarrod? What are your overall feelings? You feel good?
Yeah, I mean, like the competition.
Will you compete next year?
I don't know. Maybe not. I mean, I just.
No, the honesty is good.
Yeah, no. I just don't. I didn't really want to go this time, honestly. But I'm kind of glad that I went because it was just cool to watch and see the whole team do well in competition. Yeah. But I just in the past, in their format and the way that they judge and everything, I just didn't really want to go up this time.
Yeah.
And now just seeing the way that the judging is going to be done, I just don't want to put all this hard work like working the speed comp, like training the course, trying to get do well in speed, and then just not get rewarded as well as I thought I was going to. I went to this competition to podium and try to get some money, and that it just didn't end up happening. And so seeing that the prize money is continuing to is dropping, it kind of causes me not really to I could be putting my time into something else.
Into training for NAPC or Art of Motion.
I could have been. Yeah. I could have been. At home that weekend. In working and making more money than I came back with, and I actually probably lost money. Because just paying
for
working,
food. You're getting food.
Yeah. We're out with the guys. We're going to go get food and stuff like that, and going to the gas station to get snacks and just stuff like that. It's just like it's called prize money for a reason. It's not you get the money that you spend on the competition back.
It's not a rebate.
Not even, and even with that, you're still not making any money.
First place rebate.
You're just not losing as much money as you thought you were going to lose. And I feel like it should be enough to cover the expenses of the trip, and you go back with money,
some spending.
And it's tough being so early into the.
It's hard to do that for comps.
Oh, no, I completely understand that, but it's just,
I completely
if you're going to
agree.
host a big event and everything is going to cost, a lot of money to participate in it, you should be getting, something in return. And
specifically if you're going to host it as market it as one of the biggest
Exactly.
comps. You know what I mean?
This is they're marketing like USA Parkour Cup, biggest comp in the U.S.
Yeah.
First place, $300.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
if they would bring that hype down a little bit, just be like, hey, we're developing this. We want to work with the community. Get out here. Come help us build this thing.
If I would have known first place was $300 before I even went, I probably wouldn't have went. You know what I'm saying?
Rough.
Just because last year, the prize money over first place was like $850.
Mm-hmm.
It was about $850, and now it's lowered to I'm assuming it's $300.
Yeah.
Just because I was talking to Sean and he told me that he got second, and he got 150 for getting second in freestyle, which it should definitely be getting a lot more considering I got 100 for second. So he only got $50 more than I got for getting second in freestyle.
Yeah, which is like the hype event.
Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to be the most entertaining, and it's supposed to be. I would consider freestyle to be harder than speed, just because with speed there's just not a lot of parkour.
There's less variables.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? It's simple. It's like here's the course. Do the course quickly. There's no this
you don't
guy.
Gotta think. You just gotta go fast.
Exactly.
Really.
There's no controversy because it's speed. You just time it and then that's it. With freestyle, it's so much more because you have to come up with an entire line and execute it first try. And that is really hard to do. It's hard to come up because when we come up with lines, we don't just first try it. Most of the time, it may take hours to do. And so I just feel like it should be rewarded as it is.
Well, and me and you talked about that specifically because you called me and you were like, "Hey, are you going to go to Florida?" Because of the qualifier.
Yep.
And I was like, I remember telling you, I don't see the besides the hype and the fun that it would be to be able to film on the side, take pictures, meet everyone.
Yeah, but it would cost you a lot of money too.
It was actually because me and you were talking about going to Fool's Jam.
Yep.
And I was like, I could save that money so we can make it out to Missoula, or I could spend it on Florida to do the speed comp where I'll spend more money to go and win $100 back if I even place.
Yep.
So it was that's why I didn't go. The reward wasn't worth the cost for sure.
So definitely that is also another thing that needs to be fixed, and they need to announce the prize money before the actual event takes place, so that way people can decide whether or not they want to spend all this money to possibly get this amount of money back if they're gonna get on that podium.
Sure. It's a deciding factor is if you compete or not.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
good talk, boys.
Sure.
I felt like we covered just about everything. We went over the format, the controversy between the judging and the prize money. We went over that.
There's definitely a couple other things that I don't really want to touch on because I think they were covered pretty well.
Yeah, no. I feel like everything was pretty covered. We're going on an hour and about 10 minutes, so I think this is a good place to stop. So yeah, but that was a good little conversation. I felt like it was just something good to just talk about.
Yeah.
And hopefully people, don't take this the wrong way. We're not attacking anybody in any way.
Any competition.
No,
I think more open conversation can only create more productivity and positivity.
Exactly. The more we talk about it, the better things get.
Yeah, because if we don't talk about it, nothing's going to get fixed.
Yeah.
It's just going to continue be the same way,
for sure, and
it's just gonna be more problems. Just not people are just gonna participate in it.
Yeah.
And especially if somebody's trying to go in the future, and they don't know how the event really works, and they're deciding like if they're low on funds, if they're like, do I really want to go to this event? Definitely, if you're going to have fun and you're going to just compete and meet other people, definitely try to go. It's definitely a very fun event to go to, but if you're going there to be a serious competitor, I just feel like it's just not where you. I mean, if you enjoy their format and it's something that you can work around, definitely go. If that's the format you try to go. Me personally, it's just not the way that I come up with lines and how I want to perceive my lines. Is I want to throw down hard. I want to have it connected. I want to execute it very well. But sometimes, just that versatility is probably the only thing that really affects me, coming up with a really good line, because I sometimes I just can't get to those other obstacles, and it's just really going to hurt me in, the scoring. So definitely a really good event to go to experience for sure. Especially a young athlete. I felt like the youth was also
youth was great.
A lot of youth definitely showed up. I wasn't expecting that. Just because last year I felt like there wasn't as many youth going. They did throw down. They did throw down. Everyone threw down. Nobody, walked out like super injured. There was some falls. But as a competition, another thing is like, a lot of people are saying that the mats, they need mats to warm up on. And I was talking to one of the WFPF directors, and he was telling me that less injuries happen when there are mats.
No mats.
Yeah, when there's no mats. When there's mats being used, people prep them on the mat, and they're not getting their body ready for this concrete, and it kind of a lot of injuries have happened in the past.
When you go as an athlete and you want to warm up things on mats and they're not there, you're going to be upset. But also, that's kind of a cool way to approach competition, because if you're not ready to throw it without mats, you probably shouldn't throw it in the competition. Like you got to be really prepared. And that is, from an outsider's perspective, now that I'm not actually competing in the competition, that is really cool to me. When I was competing in the competition, I was like, man, come on, just give me some mats, bro.
That's how I felt too. And then when he explained that to me, it was like, okay, I understand what you're saying. No one's going to just be hucking, something that they're uncomfortable with just because they did it on the mat a couple times. But when you prep it on the concrete, you really know if you have it or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. That was kind of another problem for me, but now just hearing that, it just makes sense now. But I felt like we covered everything. I hope everyone that was listening to this, has a better insight of what's going on with the WFPF or the USA Parkour Cup event that just took place. But good talk, boys.
Yeah, good talk.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Make sure to go check out the other episode in this series so you can get the bigger picture on everything that's going on. And I hope you enjoyed that one. So thanks. Peace.